What if today wasn't just another day, but a cosmic checkpoint? A divine turning point that the universe handpicked, just for you, Leo. You're not watching this by accident. And if your spirit's been feeling the stir of something unseen, like a whisper that keeps returning in quiet moments, then this message is already meant for you. Welcome to Eternal Mindfulness, where we don't just talk astrology, we walk alongside the energy of transformation, one soul-aligned step at a time. This isn't your usual horoscope reading. This is a sacred transmission, a download from the universe itself. And today, on April 26, 2025, you're standing at the threshold of something powerful. Something is aligning, realigning, and breaking open, and a big surprise is coming your way. You may not fully see it yet, but trust me, Leo, your energy has already been chosen. The ancient teachers say that when the student is ready, the teaching appears. And in many ways, this video, this exact moment, might be that subtle yet undeniable sign that your soul's been waiting for. The stars are not just watching you, they are responding to you. And in today's reading, we'll uncover how that divine response is already reshaping your path. But first, breathe. Bring your awareness back to your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Now ask yourself, what am I being asked to surrender? Because what's coming next requires space and soul. I'd love for you to comment below with the angel number you feel drawn to right now. That's your signal to the universe that you are tuned in, aligned, and ready to receive. Numbers like 111, 444, or 888 aren't just coincidences, they're celestial fingerprints. So let's create a wave of alignment in the comments section, together. And before we go deeper, allow me to take a moment to say thank you, truly. Thank you for every like you've given, every comment you've left, and every subscription that's connected you closer to this growing soul family here at Eternal Mindfulness. It means the world to me, and it allows me to continue sharing these messages that, I promise, are here to meet you exactly where you are. You're not just a passive listener, you are a creator in your own right. And the insights waiting in this reading today are here to awaken that power even more. So, beautiful Leo, stay with me until the end, because what the universe is about to reveal to you is not just stunning. It's sacred. And as always, I have one question before we begin. What drew you here today? Was it a feeling? A memory? Or, was it a sign that something big is already unfolding? Let's find out together. There are moments when change doesn't arrive with thunder or fanfare, but with a subtle discomfort, a restlessness that stirs beneath the surface. For Leo, this phase feels like a quiet rebellion against everything that no longer fits. Not because you've failed, but because your soul has outgrown the version of yourself that was designed to be admired, rather than truly seen. And that's the energy rising now, a call to authenticity so loud that silence becomes unbearable. It's easy, especially for someone born under the influence of the sun, to fall into the role of the performer, the confident one, the one who shines, who inspires, who leads. But beneath that brilliance, there's a truth often buried, the need to be loved not for your light, but for your shadow. This stage in your journey is not about extinguishing the flame, but about asking, who am I when no one is watching? As the moon transits through your 12th house, it doesn't just illuminate the hidden, it dissolves what clings, old fears, obligations, self-images that once gave comfort but now feel like weight. This placement is rarely loud, but always profound. It invites a type of liberation that can only come from within, the unraveling of borrowed dreams, the quiet release of identities that were never yours to carry. The Tower card mirrors this exact movement. Not destruction for the sake of chaos, but sacred dismantling. What collapses now is not who you are, but who you thought you had to be. The masks you've worn, the expectations you inherited, the rigid self-protections built from past wounds, they all come into question. And while this might feel like the ground beneath you is shifting, it's really the false floors giving way so you can finally stand on something real. This is where the star emerges, not as a fix, but as a response. The star doesn't promise answers. It offers space. Stillness. The kind of deep breath that reminds you you've survived the fire, and now, you get to rebuild. But this time, with intention. With clarity. With your whole self. One gentle practice I invite you to try is this: write down 3 beliefs you feel obligated to maintain, not because they serve you, but because you fear judgment if you release them. They might sound like, I must always be strong, or I can't let others see my doubts, or success means being in control. Then, in a moment of stillness, burn the paper safely. Not to erase the past, but to acknowledge it, and set yourself free. Fire, after all, doesn't just destroy. It purifies. You may notice a quiet shift afterward. A softness. The mind releases its grip. The breath deepens. And from that space, something new begins to form, not from effort, but from alignment. Just as in contemplative practice where one watches the breath without forcing it, this kind of inner release isn't about fixing anything. It's about becoming present to what's real. You do not have to become more, you simply need to return. Return to the self that existed before the world asked you to be someone else. This phase for Leo is not about shrinking. It's about roaring from the heart, not the ego. A roar that doesn't demand attention, but declares, I am no longer performing. That's when people begin to hear you clearly, when your voice rises not to impress, but to express. And in that expression, there is peace. There is power. There is you. Sometimes the greatest decision you'll ever make is not about starting something new, but about choosing to stop what no longer feels aligned. After the inner clearing, Leo, you are now being asked to go deeper, not just to release, but to rebuild. And not on the old foundation, but on one that reflects who you truly are, not who the world has expected you to be. This part of your journey isn't about being impressive, it's about being in integrity. It's not about climbing faster, but about pausing long enough to ask yourself, is this still my mountain to climb? Many Leos have spent years mastering their craft, perfecting their roles, pushing themselves to achieve, lead, inspire. And yet, underneath all that gold, there's a quiet voice whispering, is this mine? The energy of the moment, reflected so clearly in the Ace of Pentacles, is offering you a reset. Not a breakdown, but a new beginning. A fresh seed that carries a more authentic kind of abundance. One that grows from your truth, not your performance. When your career path stops nourishing your spirit, it's a signal, not a failure. Life, like the seasons, constantly offers renewal, but only if we're willing to compost the outdated. And just like in mindful walking meditation, the shift doesn't happen through force, but through presence. You take one conscious step, and then the next. Your job isn't to know the entire route, it's to honor the path one true action at a time. If you felt tired lately, uninspired, or like your efforts are being drained instead of returned, that's not a flaw in your work ethic, it's an invitation to pivot. Not out of fear, but from power. There's a difference between persistence and alignment. One can wear you down. The other builds you up from the inside. And right now, Leo, the stars are asking, what are you building? And is it built to last? One simple practice to reclaim your energy is to create a work energy map. Take a sheet of paper. Divide your daily work tasks into 2 columns, energizes me and drains me. You'll be surprised how clear the patterns are. Then ask, how can I increase the former, and gently release or reframe the latter? It's not about perfection, it's about presence. Even a 10% shift in how you manage your work can completely change your vibrational field. The 9 of Pentacles shows up here not as a goal, but as a state of being. It's the energy of grounded independence, not needing permission, not seeking approval, but standing firmly in your self-sufficiency. This doesn't mean doing it all alone, but it does mean choosing from a place of sovereignty. You're not meant to follow the crowd, you're meant to magnetize what's yours through clarity and grace. And the world reminds you that you're not starting from scratch. Everything you've done, even what didn't last, was preparing you for this. Every chapter served a purpose. This is your moment to integrate what you've learned and choose differently, not from guilt or obligation, but from wisdom. The numerology surrounding you right now supports this transformation in powerful ways. 8 gives you the inner strength to act with courage. 17 reconnects you with your inner light, the part of you that knows, even when the world doubts. And 22 anchors your long-term vision. It's the master builder number, the reminder that your purpose isn't a fantasy, it's a plan, and it wants you to participate in its construction. So if a part of you is longing to start that creative project, return to art, explore coaching, open your own path, this is not the time to dismiss it as impractical. This is the time to nurture it as sacred. Even if all you can give it right now is 1 hour a day, that hour could become the root of something extraordinary. Sometimes, the smallest seed grows the strongest tree, not because it had everything from the start, but because it was planted with pure intent. There is a saying from the wisdom traditions that goes something like this: better to walk slowly in the right direction than to run full speed in the wrong one. And that, Leo, is your key today. Your fire is powerful, yes. But your discernment is divine. When we speak of love, especially for Leo, it's easy to think first of passion, attraction, or even admiration. But now, the conversation has shifted. After you've stepped into deeper self-awareness and reclaimed your personal path, love becomes something much more than emotional excitement. It becomes sacred resonance. At this point in your journey, you're not just attracting people who reflect your light, but those who understand your shadows. And this is the difference between connection and soul connection. One is momentary, the other is magnetic. One fills time, the other fulfills destiny. What you're drawing in now isn't based on superficial compatibility. It's energetic. It moves like a current beneath the surface, pulling you toward interactions that challenge and nourish your growth at once. You may notice synchronicities, sudden thoughts of someone who then reaches out, dreams that stir memories, or recurring names, numbers, or symbols. These aren't to be overanalyzed, but noticed. They are signs that something deeper is shifting in your field. The Lover's card in tarot doesn't merely signal romance, it signals a choice. A choice between what's comfortable and what's aligned. Between illusion and intimacy. Between who you were and who you're becoming. For those of you currently in a relationship, this is an invitation to shift from needing your partner to fulfill a role, to seeing them as a companion on your inner path. It may mean having new conversations, ones that invite vulnerability, not perfection. You don't need to manage the relationship with control. You only need to nurture it with clarity. Ask yourself honestly, am I allowing space for growth, or am I clinging to how things used to be? Because true connection breathes. It changes. And when we resist that change, we unknowingly trap it in old forms that can no longer contain its fullness. If you're single, you might feel an unusual longing, one that doesn't feel desperate, but deep. That's not loneliness. That's your soul recognizing it's ready for mirrored energy. But readiness doesn't always mean reaching out. Sometimes, it's about stepping back. Letting go of the urge to find someone to complete you and instead, becoming so whole within yourself that you naturally call on someone who's also done their work. That's when love becomes real, not when it fills a gap, but when it meets you where you already stand strong. You may be revisited by someone from your past. If that happens, the question isn't, do we still have a spark? The question is, have we both grown beyond the wounds that once bound us? Because love isn't built on repetition. It's built on renewal. And if someone returns only to reenact old dynamics, they're not bringing healing, they're bringing history. You're not here to repeat history, Leo. You're here to make new patterns. Ones rooted in emotional safety, mutual inspiration, and truth. Reflect gently on this. Am I loving because my heart feels open, or because I feel empty without someone there? There is a quiet clarity that arises when we begin to love from wholeness rather than hunger. In contemplative tradition, this idea is mirrored in the teaching that the greatest love begins not in attachment, but in presence. When you stop chasing love as an answer and begin offering it as a way of being, you become magnetic, not because you're seeking, but because you are aligned. In this cycle, the star card accompanies the lovers, reminding you that any connection worthy of your energy must also support your healing. The star offers hope, yes, but it also offers discernment. You can believe in love again, but now you do so with wiser eyes. You no longer fall for potential. You see clearly what is. And that's the truest form of love, to see, to choose, and to remain awake inside it. If someone is meant to walk with you, they will walk toward your truth, not away from it. And if they don't, let them. The right ones won't resist your growth, they'll reflect it. Rest is not the absence of progress, it's the preparation for power. After making bold choices in your career, after facing the truth in your relationships, there comes a moment when the body asks for stillness. Not to escape the journey, but to integrate it. Leo, this part of your path is not about doing more, achieving more, or shining brighter in the eyes of others. It's about nourishing your internal fire so it can continue to burn from within, steadily and with clarity. Your vitality, like your intuition, speaks in a quiet voice. And often, it speaks in the language of resistance, fatigue, tension, emotional weight. These are not signs of weakness, but signals from your inner system that something wants your attention. The energy of the star offers you the space to heal through gentleness, not urgency. To lie back, to breathe, to unclench both jaw and mind. In this space, clarity often returns, not because you forced it to, but because you stopped forcing everything else. The Nine of Pentacles appears not only as a symbol of independence, but of balance. This card reminds you that wealth includes well-being, and luxury can be found in simplicity. A cup of warm tea, a 10-minute walk under morning light, the decision to eat a real meal rather than skip one, these are acts of quiet rebellion in a culture that glorifies constant motion. There is strength in your stillness. There is momentum in your surrender. To support your system now, begin where the body begins, with breath and nourishment. Choose foods that offer you calm energy, dark leafy greens, omega-3s for mental clarity, fruits that hydrate and ground. Drink water not just to quench thirst, but to cleanse. Let every bite be a reminder that you are worth taking care of, not just pushing through. When you eat from presence, digestion improves, not just of food, but of life itself. Movement, too, becomes medicine. Consider starting your mornings with a few minutes of gentle stretching or light sun salutations, not to burn calories, but to return to yourself. Let the act of movement be your way of saying, I am here, and I am alive. If you've been holding on to emotional tension, consider practicing a visualization meditation. Picture emerald green light surrounding your heart, flowing gently outward. That green, a color deeply connected to healing and balance, has a way of calming the nervous system and reconnecting you with your own rhythm. Just a few minutes of this each day can regulate not only emotion, but clarity of thought. If your spirit has been overwhelmed, a helpful practice is letter writing. Not to others, but to yourself. Write a letter to the version of you that has kept going, even when it hurt. Thank them. Acknowledge them. Then, write another to your future self, the version of you that has already healed, already softened, already found a rhythm of peace. Read it aloud. In doing so, you bridge the gap between who you've been and who you are becoming. There is a principle that speaks of harmony not being the absence of noise, but the alignment of all notes. And in that way, your body is an instrument. Every thought, every movement, every choice of nourishment, it all contributes to the song you're creating with your life. Let this part of your week be a rest note, not an interruption. Let it be the pause that gives power to the next crescendo. You don't need to be at your strongest to be impactful. You only need to be present. Healing is not a race to a finish line, it is a return to stillness where your real clarity resides. What you've been sensing lately, perhaps as a subtle shift, a quiet knowing, or even a burst of sudden clarity, isn't random. It's the unmistakable signal that your life is aligning with something larger than routine. After all the releasing, reclaiming, and restoring, this next movement is about stepping into what was always meant for you. Not because you forced it, but because you've become the version of yourself who can finally receive it. This is where destiny doesn't knock, it flows. And Leo, you are not chasing anymore. You are attracting. The presence of the Nine of Pentacles in this moment reminds you that real abundance doesn't scream. It radiates. It's not born from urgency, but from a deep sense of self-trust. You've been cultivating something, even on days when it felt like nothing was happening. And now, the roots you tended quietly are beginning to break through the surface. Success is no longer about proving anything. It's about embodiment. You are embodying a new level of worth, one that says, I don't need to hustle for what's already mine by resonance. The law of attraction, at its core, isn't about chasing desires. It's about becoming energetically aligned with what you value most. When your thoughts, habits, and inner beliefs begin to mirror your highest self, you naturally start drawing in experiences that match. This is where alignment becomes magnetic. You no longer need to knock on every door. The right ones begin to open as you pass by. But this kind of magnetism asks for something subtle yet powerful: integrity. When your intentions are clear, your actions consistent, and your energy anchored in purpose, you become a beacon. There's no need to manipulate or push. Your presence does the speaking. That's the quiet power the World card brings to this chapter: completion, integration, and the beginning of a new cycle where you no longer outsource your value. You own it. You live it. Now is also a time for practical alignment, especially around finances. Emotional spending often appears when we try to soothe a deeper ache. But when you pause and ask, am I feeding a feeling or fueling my future? You give yourself a chance to move from reaction to intention. Rather than buying momentary comfort, consider investing in your growth. Whether it's a course, a coach, or a tool that supports your skills, the energy you put into learning now multiplies over time. It's not about how much you spend, but how consciously you do it. The Lover's card appears here as a reminder that your mission isn't meant to be walked alone. Whether through partnerships, collaborations, or soul-aligned friendships, connection is part of the journey. This is not about giving up independence, but about choosing resonance. You're now in a phase where the people you attract will either reflect your alignment or reveal what's still misaligned. Trust that clarity. Let your heart remain open, but your boundaries stay clear. Numerology supports this flow with meaningful sequences. 6 is the number of balance and harmony, reminding you that love and responsibility can coexist. 9 speaks to the end of a cycle and the wisdom you've earned. 22 and 33 are master numbers, builders and spiritual architects, guiding you to think bigger, create with purpose, and trust divine timing. 44 is stability built on truth, and 88 is a double force of abundance, but only when your inner and outer worlds are in agreement. What this phase asks of you isn't noise, it's depth. Choose your focus, plant it with intention, and then release the pressure. Your mission isn't found in speed, it's found in presence. In a teaching passed down through mindful tradition, it's said that true fortune arrives not through striving, but through readiness. And readiness is cultivated by those who walk with patience, awareness, and heart. Let yourself rest in the knowing that what's truly yours will not pass you by. Not if you keep walking with clarity. Not if you keep choosing what honors your evolution. Because when your path and your essence match frequency, destiny doesn't just find you, it recognizes you. What a journey this has been, one of release, remembrance, and radiant becoming. From shedding what no longer speaks your truth, to choosing a new direction with clarity, to opening your heart in love and resting your body in stillness, Every part of this reading has led you back here, to this moment. And in this moment, Leo, there is something quietly extraordinary unfolding. The realization that you never needed to chase worthiness, because you've always carried it inside you. You've been through enough to know that external validation is fleeting, but inner alignment is lasting. That the applause may come and go, but the real roar, the one that changes everything, happens silently, deep inside, when you finally choose yourself. And that is the gift this season offers you. Not a loud breakthrough. Not a sudden arrival. But a steady opening. A return to self-respect, to vision, to presence. So now, the question is, what will you do with this awareness? How will you walk differently today, knowing that your energy is the magnet, not the reaction? That the choices you make don't have to be grand to be powerful, they just have to be true. Will you finally say no to what drains you? Will you commit, even gently, to one habit that brings you back to balance? Will you speak more kindly to yourself, or rest without guilt, or love with less fear and more trust? You've seen through this reading that your life is not random. There is a thread, delicate yet strong, that connects all the shifts, all the endings, all the new beginnings. And now that thread is forming a new pattern, one that mirrors the power you've reclaimed. So the question isn't whether something great is coming. It's whether you're willing to believe you're ready for it. Because you are. If this message stirred something inside you, if it reflected even a sliver of your current reality, I'd love for you to share it. Comment below with the words, "I choose myself. I choose the light." Let this be your declaration, not just to the universe, but to yourself, that you are done shrinking, done performing, done waiting. You are ready to shine in your own way, on your own terms. And if you found resonance here today, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with someone who might need it. You never know who is one word away from their breakthrough, and your action might be the spark that lights the path. Thank you for sharing this space with me, for trusting eternal mindfulness to walk beside you. Your presence is not taken for granted. It is honored deeply. And always remember, you don't need to roar to be seen. You don't need to push to be powerful. Leo doesn't need to prove anything. Because you are already the light the universe has been waiting to reflect. And the moment you believe that, truly believe it, everything changes. Now go forward, not to become someone new, but to stand more fully in who you've always been. You are not late. You are right on time. And the next chapter? It begins the moment you decide to live as if you were never anything less than extraordinary.